you have a second mic? Just that one? Okay. Oh. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for your patience. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, as is tradition, we had parking issues. We love the venue. That's one of the things that we always try and fix every year. We'll try and improve on it next year. We iterate on our failures, correct? This is DevOps. And then, of course, we had projector issues as well. So what could go wrong probably will go wrong, as it did this morning. Welcome to the 2018 edition of DevOps Days. We're very excited to have you all here. If you see someone in a blue shirt like this or the blue polo, be sure to thank them for all their hard work. We are a volunteer organization, and we put in a lot of time and effort into this. So, wow, that's a slow transition. This is going to be fun. All right, so we have over 300 attendees again. This is our 4th year of doing Devopsdays Columbus, and we've sold out every year. So thank you all to the attendees. It's when you would applaud for yourselves. We have over 104 companies represented as well, so I think that's great that we have a great cross-pollination of people from different companies and we can all learn from one another. We were able to increase the level or the number of sponsors this year as well, so we have an expanded sponsor area. Thank you all to the sponsors as well. You can clap here for that in a second. We also added a Day Zero event, which was a leadership summit that we held yesterday, where we had leaders from different organizations talking to other leaders from different organizations about how you do DevOps transformation in large enterprises as well. And so that really is about trying to increase the support for us, the individual contributors, or the people at the bottom of the stack, so that we can actually improve the work that we do in our organizations. Thank you again to all of our sponsors as well. You've already clapped for them. Thank you as well to our community sponsors, so Sticker Mule, who gave us the stickers, Zoco Design, who did some design work for us on the badges as well, which is a local company, and then Arrested DevOps, which is the podcast for DevOps, which is organized by or is ran by 2 core organizers of DevOps Days, Bridget Kromhout and Matt Stratton, as well as Trevor G. Hess. I think that's his name. Sorry, Trevor. He's going to give me a hard time about that. I only used to work with the guy. So this is the 9th year of DevOps Days events. So DevOps Days is a worldwide phenomenon. There are 71 events this year. How many events are running concurrently with our event? Can anyone guess? 3. There's 3 other events. So there's actually 4 DevOps Days going on right now. Istanbul, London, and the 3rd one I forgot. Cairo, yes, Cairo in Egypt. So a very interesting mix of people from all over the world talking about the same things that you all are talking about as well. I find that like when the clicker doesn't work, if you just go like this, I don't know what it is. So a great map of all the different events. So if you're wanting to try and find one near you, well, you already did that. But there's also other nice places that you might want to visit to spread the knowledge and love of DevOps as well.
Okay, so my name is Sherry Stebbins, and we introduced a new application this year called Guidebook. So if you haven't downloaded it, make sure you do. It has a lot of information out there. It has, when you download it, make sure you use the passphrase DOD CBUS, or DevOpsdays CBUS. Kind of remember it there? So within Guidebook, you'll see a lot of different information. There's speaker information. There's also, are you changing it on me already? My goodness.
Oh, sorry.
There's maps as far as how we're laid out and where we'll have the open spaces. And there's speaker information as well as feedback. So every speaker, there's an option to give feedback on them. Now you can.
Now I can?
Yes.
Here, do you want this?
Which way am I going?
You're going to the right.
So open spaces, if you don't know what open spaces is, it's your chance for you to set an agenda. So during the afternoon, what will happen, or not during the afternoon, yes, during the afternoon,
Yeah.
there will be session.
I think.
Yeah.
Is it? Did you look at the program?
I did not.
Oh.
I have it memorized. I don't
We
need
should
to look
probably
at
do that
it.
before we get back up here.
Anyway, it's an opportunity for you to set the agenda. It's small group sessions. You'll get together and discuss topics. You'll also, the purpose is to, so you're going to propose topics via the guidebook. He added this slide on me. Sorry about that.
So you propose topics via guidebook,
Hey,
or we can
minute.
do it via
My
post-it
turn.
notes.
You vote on the topics in guidebook, and then the open spaces topics will be announced later this afternoon before we get to the actual open spaces. Oh, I have it now.
You have it now. Here, I'll do it for you.
So this is what the guidebook looks like. And as you can see, the arrow there is showing you how to actually make suggestions for the open spaces. So this is where you will get to decide what we're going to do this afternoon. So you click on the little hamburger menu. That's the 3 lines. And then you select the open space topic suggestions as shown with the arrow up there. It went quick. Okay, so.
We should have ripped out the transitions. We're
Yes.
sorry. We copied these slides from someone else.
This is another opportunity for improvement. Open space idea submission. So what you're going to see is a screen that looks similar to this. You have an opportunity to submit 5 ideas for open spaces. Make sure when you're submitting those ideas, you put your name there. The reason we're asking you to put your name there is if we want you to come up on stage and actually talk about what you were meaning by that open space, we know who to contact, or at least who to ask to come up on stage. Now, keep in mind that when you put something in suggestion 1, and let's say you just put 1 suggestion in, and you put it in suggestion 1, you submit it. If you come around and say, oh, I'd like to submit a couple more, if you put it back in suggestion 1, it will overlay what you already put in there.
And you don't see what you had already put in there either.
Yes, it's gone.
Yeah.
Gone forever.
Sorry, we didn't build the app.
It's in the cloud. No. So then what will happen is after lunch, all the ideas will be out there, and we will ask you guys to actually vote on them so we know what we're going to do later on this afternoon. So what is your responsibility right now?
Start submitting your open space ideas now.
Green guy, she's got to read it. So it's right now, your task is start submitting. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about this afternoon? So logistics. I've already gotten this question a few times. Restrooms are upstairs to the east side, both men and women. Women are in the back. Men, you'll see as soon as you go through that little opening. There is an elevator. There's an elevator over here in the east corner. If you need to use the elevator, feel free to do that. Lunch. Lunch will be provided both days from noon to 1. We will also have an afternoon snack around 2. And then happy hour is tonight here in the Bluestone. It's from 5 to 7, and we will actually provide drinks and food.
Yes.
Absolutely. I planned it, so it's going to be really good.
You seem to question.
Thank you, Bill.
You seem to question a little bit whether if drinks or food were provided if you planned it.
Just having fun. Wi-Fi. If you haven't already discovered, there is free Wi-Fi. It is called Devopsdays Ohio. Very simple to find. Oh,
Open.
Sorry. Devopsdays Open. So it's really simple to find. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And lastly, from my perspective, unless I'm going to go into Michael's space, is they have live streaming. We do have live streaming going on. It's on YouTube, so search for Devopsdays Columbus, and you'll see day 1 live stream and day 2 live stream. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll turn it over to Michael.
So as with every DevOps Days event, there is a code of conduct. Basically what the code of conduct boils down to is that respect and empathy are core DevOps values. DevOps Days is dedicated to providing an environment where everyone in the DevOps community can learn and share in a respectful and considerate collaboration. Report any concerns to one of the organizers in a light blue shirt. I do see a person with a light blue shirt who is not an organizer. So please do not report anything to this gentleman right there. Sorry, you'll need to change your shirt if you don't mind.
We have one up there too.
Optionally, if it's something that you need direct attention and you want to draw it to either myself, I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Michael Ducey. That's my cell phone number if you need it, and that is Sherry's cell phone number as well if you need to report any concerns as well. But as I said, be respectful of one another. It's a community of sharing. We want to try and share ideas, and we want to try and spread knowledge. And you might learn something from someone that you didn't necessarily expect you would learn if you keep an open mind. And with that, so just one thing, we actually intentionally failed during this so that we could show you failure and then how we can improve so that you can iterate on failure. So let's get started and introduce our first speaker.
So our first speaker, I'd like to welcome Tiffany Longworth. She will be talking, come on up.
Gotta get
This is Tiffany. Tiffany will be talking about the change management for humans. And we're real excited to have Tiffany up here. Give a warm round of applause for, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a second and not try and talk.
I wondered why I was hearing our voices, and it's because this laptop back here, which is running live streams, is also has the volume up.
Hi, Columbus. Hi. Yes, I am Tiffany Longworth. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a sysadmin at Puppet. But I've not always been a sysadmin at Puppet. When I started, I scheduled the consultants and quickly automated myself into boredom. And so my boss was like, hey, how would you like to implement some software? And not knowing I was supposed to say no, I said yes. And this led me on a career journey that is just, I've been rolling out changes pretty much nonstop. Some of them have been great successes that I'm very proud of. Others have been catastrophic failures that have left me emotionally scarred. And this talk is all about sharing what I've learned so you don't end up with the same emotional scars that I have. Because we're in IT. Change is constant. You roll out a thing. Hopefully you get to iterate once or twice, but all too soon we got to rip it out and replace it with something new because the business has pivoted. When this works, it is so beautiful. Like, raise your hand if you've gotten to roll out a change and people have been happy about it and that has made you happy. Like, it's really fulfilling. What about when you try and roll out a thing and it doesn't work, though? It's the worst. Like, the people rolling out the change resent the people who aren't adopting the change. The people who are resisting the change don't even understand why this is coming down and ruining a perfectly good thing anyway, which means that we end up with subverted processes and shadow IT, and like, everyone's miserable, and the thing that we were trying to fix doesn't actually get fixed because of all this, which means in 6 to 18 months, we're doing the exact same thing again, only we have less patience for one another. Just as we're a bunch of nerds that like computers, there are nerds that like change management, and they have several different frameworks that they use to predict whether or not a change is going to be successful. The one I'm going to use is called ADKAR. It is an acronym for Awareness, Desire, Knowledge, Ability, and Reinforcement. This is shorthand for people need to be aware that a problem exists before they're willing to change. They need to have enough desire to fix it. Like, if we can duct tape it, do we really care? They need to know how to fix their problem, have the ability to fix the problem, and They need to be reminded, because we are all human, and this is a talk about humans. To be clear, this talk is not about how to shove a terrible change down someone's throat. It's about how to create a good change that people go, ah, I see the obvious benefit, and will gladly go along. So, the first part of communicating a good change is making sure you've got a good change to deliver. And this all starts with your stakeholder interviews. This is my favorite part. That first project that I worked on, our problem set was that sales used one tool to store customer data. Support logged all their customer stuff into a second tool, and then our consultants were using yet a third tool to store information. So in order to get a picture of a customer lifecycle, you had to go into 3 tools, which was not cool. So the first thing that I did was I identified my stakeholders. Everything you change impacts other people. Find out who they are and have an informational interview with them. This is purely informational, and ask them open-ended questions about what problems they see. What are their hopes and dreams in this problem space? What keeps them up at night? If you ask very direct questions, you're just going to end up with a bunch of confirmation bias, so be very, very open and write everything they say down. They're going to come up with some stuff that you never would have imagined. And some of it's going to be super important, and other things are going to be like pie-in-the-sky dream time. Put it down anyway, because while you're actually rolling out, while you're building your change, you might go, oh, here's an easy thing that they didn't think we would be able to do, and it's like bonus points. You get like +5 charisma on your change initiative. When we're rolling out a change, a lot of times we already know what we want to do. Keep that to yourself. If you already know what their problem is, don't tell them. Let them tell you. Give them a sense of ownership, and also do not make promises. Especially if you're having several stakeholder interviews, don't be like, oh yeah, we can totally do that, because you might talk to someone later and it turns out that they have needs that if you do one, you can't do the other. So don't make promises. Surprise them later with how amazing your change is going to be. Again, going back to ADCAR, this is building up your awareness of the problem space so you can communicate with examples that are meaningful to your audience, and also figuring out what they desire, like what does their dream life look like. Speaking of not making promises, be sure that your project can be fallible. Like if it's going to cause more harm than good, you shouldn't launch it. That's a bad change. You should be making people's lives better. So, ask people for direct examples of what are things that if we break this, they will just hard pass on your change. All right. And then you want to follow up with them early, because it's the real world and we cannot get everything we want. Come back to them and say, hey, that thing you wanted, we did it, and we did this thing and this thing, but that fourth thing, I can't count, it's too early. We wanted to do this and we heard what you said. Make sure they know that you heard them, and then explain the reasoning why. What were the trade-offs that you had to go through? If they understand the business logic behind your decision, they will be more likely to go along with you, and you will create evangelists as opposed to enemies, and guess which one you want. Seek consensus, be sure, like, are you still okay with this? Here's some workarounds maybe we can do. Get them to be on your side, even if you can't give them a perfect, idealized version of your project. Okay. Oh, and even if you were going to do that thing, implement that one feature that they asked for, give them credit. It's like IKEA furniture. Like, let them have a piece of ownership. They will be more invested in ensuring your change is successful if they got to have an influential part in it. Look out for new stakeholders. That very first project that I did, so the tool that the consultants used was our wiki, and it was old, and it was slow, and everybody hated it. And so the tool that we were going to roll out was going to replace this. And I was like, oh, this is an easy win. Everybody hates this thing. We'll just have a new one. This is going to be a piece of cake. But it turns out, not just sales support and consultants were using the wiki, everyone was using it. Engineering, HR, like everyone. And I didn't go and include them in this change effort, which meant that I missed out on the fact that they were already working on replacing that wiki. And like that change effort, in the end, didn't succeed because I did not analyze all of my stakeholders again because the scope had changed. So don't end up with that emotional scar. Okay, so you've done your homework, you've created your project, you've run it by your stakeholders, everyone's on board, it's time to launch. Start with the tigers. What are the absolutely terrifying things that are going to happen to us if we do not go along with this change? You're really going for emotional impact. Now, I know we're all computer nerds here, and feelings can be kind of weird, and you might even be thinking to yourself, won't that make me be emotionally manipulative? No, we're humans. We have feelings. Pretending they don't exist is illogical. We're kind of like a compiled language. We need an emotional jumpstart to compile the code for your change. Like, if you don't start with a reason to change, people are going to zone out. So, start with something that's impactful to them. Charts are nice, but charts are kind of logical. Think more visual. So, instead of just saying, look at this chart of how much money we will save, say, each of these Hot Wheels toys is the price of a Tesla. Here's how many Teslas we're wasting. Something like that. Give them something that they can be like, oh man, I just saw a car. It reminded me that I need to make that change that Tiffany said I should make. Much like tigers, pain is a really good motivator to change what you're doing. You can use recent pain. So for that first change that I did, I said, hey, support, you remember that time you spent 2 days debugging this one weird module when the consultant had already fixed that? And if you had just known what everyone else had done, you wouldn't have wasted all that time. That's really good pain. And that's an emotional argument. Remember that time when it really sucked? That's an emotional argument. Other people's pain is also great. Hey, look what happened to Equifax. You don't want that to happen to you, right? Like, really good motivator. Changes in compliance, GDPR, ACA, competition is your competitor coming for your lunch. And my personal favorite is a misalignment with self-identity. Hey, we're an automation company. Why is it that we have these manual steps to do that? Doesn't that make us kind of like hypocritical? Does anyone want to be called a hypocrite? Does anyone get like weird feelings in their stomach if they think they might be considered a hypocrite? That's why this is such a good argument. Now, after you've pointed out the tigers, we also need good, shiny, happy things. What are the puppies and kittens that lay in wait in our post-change future? Again, you're going for emotional impact. As much as I wish that people really cared sincerely about data quality, they don't. What they really care about is going home on time without a lot of stress because they didn't have to stay late reworking a project for an angry client because the first time you did it, the data quality was bad and it failed. So, paint the picture for them of going home on time, happy, well-rested. Maybe your change will mean that they have less work, easier work, more interesting work. And I really need to come up with a better phrase than continued employment because I don't mean like do it or I'll fire you. I've never had that power, but it's more like if we do this change, our company is going to be more viable, which means that we won't go out of business and you can continue hanging out with all your coworker friends and life as you know it will continue. This only works if you like your job. Greater good, so if it's a green initiative, the planet, if it's helping your community, and then again, that self-identity. The tool that we rolled out was if Wikipedia and Facebook had a business baby, that's what we had. And so I was able to say, like, hey, we're all really fun people here and we enjoy hanging out with each other. If we roll out this tool, not only will we have clear pictures of what everyone's experiencing with us, we'll also be able to organize Magic the Gathering tournaments and karaoke outings and like all these things that we love. And they're like, oh, that's pretty nice. We're fun people. Okay. You've pointed out the tigers laying in wait. You have guided people to the glorious puppy-laden future. Now and only now do you get on to the details. Never, ever start here. If you start here, people will zone out, fall asleep, panic. None of this is what you want. So one time my manager said, Tiffany, we need to move most of the department from this side of the building to the other side. Can you make that happen? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I've got a military background, so it's just like, yes, I will make the change happen. Woof. And so I made the optimal plan, I found the optimal layout, I found out how we were going to, like, you move first, you move second, you move third, this way we don't have any clogs in the hallway. And I sent this beautiful, detailed email out. And everyone went, but why? And I went, because we were told to? And people freaked out, like they had emotional attachments to their space in the building. Like there was a tree and a very specific bird landed there every day and they were friends with this bird and I couldn't like break that bond by giving details. So, don't start with the details. Has anyone ever seen someone try and start with like, we've added a drop-down menu to Jira. Please use it to record the origin of your bug. And then like, it's not like people don't understand how to use a drop-down menu, they just don't care. 6 months later, people are like, what is this drop-down menu? And then you get the, like the Death Star Jira trap. Okay, oh, right, so a lot of us here are really, really good at reading the docs. It's how a lot of us were raised, but it's not the best way for all of us to learn. So while you're doing this knowledge step, try and take into account other learning styles. I usually write my docs while I'm rolling out a tool, which is easy, but then, like, how do we help people who learn best by listening? How do we help people who learn best in group activities or hands-on stuff? These are for you visual learners. You don't have to do 20 different ways of teaching a thing to reach people with different learning styles. One of my favorites is when I launch, I have a class. So I'm going over the same docs that I've written. It's like they could read them, but I'm using my voice, and I'm walking them through. And they're like, I can hear this. I can learn better because I'm hearing it. Oh, we're actually practicing. I learn best by hands-on. I'm getting to do this in a place where I can get immediate feedback. People who learn best in groups enjoy this. People who learn best on their own appreciate that I'm recording this class and making it available to them online later. I just hit almost all of that. Try doing a class, it's great. Third step, ability. People need to be able to apply your change. A really good example of not having the ability, even though you know how to do it, is if your manager says you can't. Make sure that management's okay with you rolling out your new tool. Scars. Change is hard. People are used to what they're doing every day, and they might be afraid of your change. You might be introducing something really intimidating to them. Or even if it's pretty easy, they might be intimidated anyway because of past things that have happened to them. Give them an example of someone that they trust that has done this. Say, you want to be like Mike. Mike has done this before, and it has worked for Mike, and it'll work for you too. Let them know that they're not doomed to failure. The more you can describe this in detail, like it's not just Mike shoots and scores, it's Mike dribbles, Mike looks, angles, like give playbooks, tell a story. The more someone can envision themselves doing these steps, the stickier it's going to be in their brain, which means it's going to be easier to remember. That being said, the simplest changes are the easiest to do. In change management parlance, this is called clearing the path. Remove every ounce of friction from someone getting from point A to the end of your change as humanly possible. Fiddly bits, secret handshakes, toggles, these are all friction. Make this as smooth as you humanly can. Make sure management can do this. And my favorite part of this is subverting imposter syndrome. Because again, one reason people don't change is because they're afraid that they might not succeed. So one change I did, we chose a tool because it was just dead simple for the end user to log in, do what they needed to do, and get out without having to read docs, without having to talk to someone to get help, except for this one page. This one page was like time transported from 1996 and then turned upside down and then beaten. It was bad. And we knew it was bad, but it was only for this small subset of people. So they already knew if they had trouble, go to our wiki and find help. So that page started with, "It's not you. You're here, it's not you. Here's a GIF of a baby monkey. Please look at it as long as you need to, because we believe that you've probably wasted 5 minutes hating life." And then after that, we walk through all the secret handshakes and toggles. Don't let people feel bad about themselves for using your tool. If people feel bad about themselves for using your tool, they won't use it. Hooray! We have launched our change. People are aware of the tigers. They know about the puppies. They know how to roll out the thing. They're able to roll out the thing. We're done, right? Again, with that Jira dropdown, sometimes you roll out a change and everyone knows how to do it, and they just don't. It's because we are human, and we need to be reminded that there is a change that we're supposed to do. So, we're DevOps, we like measurements, and measurements are also really handy because you can say, here are the results a week later. We're going up and to the right. This is your right, right? All right. So yeah, you're sending out some measurements, but you're also saying, remember that change we did last week? And people go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that, aren't I? I want to be part of that up and to the right. You can also get this with iteration, like commit upfront to iterate on your project. Take those initial stakeholders that you interviewed and schedule things with them before you even launch so that you can go through and be like, okay, what did we get right? Help me groom my backlog. Like, what are the features we should do next to get the biggest wins and the highest adoption rate? And every time you say, hey, we heard you, we improved this thing, it goes, one, hey, you remember that change we rolled out? And two, hey, I care about you. Like, your happiness is important to me, which makes people go, oh, I am liked. I like this person back. I should maybe do this change. Follow-up checks. If you have the ability to see who's logged on or something, go do that. Follow up with the people who haven't logged on. Or if you need to build a pipeline, what teams haven't built their pipeline yet? Talk to them. They might be afraid. They might be busy. If either one of those is the answer, offering help is the way to fix that. Offer help. Onboarding. New people are a font of enthusiasm. They are eager to provide value, and if your onboarding documentation allows them to provide value very quickly, you will make a huge fan. And a huge fan is going to talk about how awesome your change is and remind all the people around them that they should do your change. Hack that system. Use new people to spread enthusiasm. And then if you have the power to end-of-life support for a previous way of doing things, do that, because there is nothing better at making someone not do the old way than for them not to be able to do the old way. All right. Okay, if you're into summary slides, now's your chance. So, what have we talked about today? AdCar. When you're rolling out a change, make sure that people are aware of the tigers. Make sure that they know what the puppies are and that they are meaningful puppies to them. Never ever start with the knowledge, but make sure that it's varied and clear. Make sure that they have someone, a clear success story to follow. And remind them, because we are all human. If you have enjoyed this topic and would like to read more, here are 3 books that I have found extremely useful. I'm going to count for more photos because I don't really have anything else to say about this slide. Okay, and finally, this has been Change Management for Humans. I'm Tiffany. Thank you so much for letting me come back to Columbus, and I love you all. Okay, bye.
Hey there. So thank you so much, Tiffany. That was a great presentation. From here, we'd like to bring up one of our gold sponsor, Sumo Logic.
Hi, I'm Kenneth. I'm representing Sumo Logic. We've got a desk in the back. We're a machine data analytics platform that scales with you. So if you're in the cloud, or if you're moving into the cloud, or if you're coming here to learn about how you're going to need to move into the cloud and have data that's being produced by your systems, things that you need to monitor, then come and talk to us. We do demos, and we can also set up a opportunity for us to work together to do a trial. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to move on to App Dynamics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ray Rieski. I'm a senior engineer with App Dynamics. We understand that the health of your application is inseparable to the health of your business. App Dynamics provides a means of getting that health, understanding all the events from a business metrics, operational metrics, and infrastructure on one cohesive screen. So we're uniquely qualified to provide that health information. And the way we do it is we focus on the business transaction as our unit of measure. So what's a business transaction? Imagine your business has had an e-commerce platform for the last 2 years. You log in, you search the catalog, you add to cart, you check out. Your infrastructure between now and 2 years ago is dramatically different. And if you're trying to do your infrastructure monitoring, you're playing whack-a-mole. So instead, we will score every single business transaction. We score every single login, every single add to cart, every single checkout. Since we score every one, we know what normal is. Since we know what normal is, we can then tell you when something deviates from normal, creating a baseline, allowing you to get ahead of the curve if something goes awry. We understand that being able to have a single platform and a single way to communicate across the applications is imperative for you to be able to solve the problems. And we'd like to help you. We have a booth out in front. Please stop by and talk to us.
Thank you.
And another one of our gold sponsors is Red Hat.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Phil Fernandez. How's everybody today? Everybody awake? Good. This place is really cool, isn't it? I love it. It reminds me of John Belushi when he did all those flips down the aisle. So I also feel like it reminds me of Coming to America, where Arsenio Hall was preaching, right? I feel like I got to preach, right? So how many know what DevOps is? Oh, come on. Where are you guys? Really? All right. How many have completed their digital transformation journey? All right, that's what I thought. Okay, good. So you should never, ever complete your digital transformation journey, right? So how many know who Red Hat is? How many identify Red Hat with Linux? Right. How many know that we do much more than Linux? Okay, good. Well, we do the full stack. So I actually cover our middleware portfolio, which includes all our JBoss product, our OpenShift product, and our 3-scale API management. And so how many here have pain points around integration? Few, yeah? How many have pain points around automation? All right, plenty. I hear this every day, all day. Everybody has pain points around all these things. We're all asked to do more with less today, right? And we're all expected to accelerate our business. We're all expected to do more with what we have. We're expected to outperform our competitors, right? How do we get better than our competitors? How do we iterate faster? How do we innovate faster? I'm not saying that Red Hat can solve all your problems, but I believe we can help. Come talk to us. We're straight out the door. we have a full suite of products that can help you through your digital transformation journey. And we'd love to see you and share knowledge with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, right now, I'd like to introduce Rundeck.
Thanks to Red Hat for loosening up your shoulders, because I'm always afraid to do the hand-raising thing with you guys because it's early in the morning and you won't do it. But I'm going to do it. Who here gets tickets? Tickets come to you ever in your life. Liars, you all get tickets. I know you do. All right, raise your hand if you love getting tickets and want more. No one. Good. Stop that. Always one in the crowd. Send all your requests there. How about we have less tickets in our environment? We think that that's true. I think you can get less tickets inside of your environment by letting people have a little bit more self-service in their environment. I ask people, and I'll probably challenge you when you're out there, do you get tickets? Yes, you do. Do they come to you? Now think about the tickets that you get, all you people who lied to me earlier. Think about the tickets that you get. Do they come to you primarily or exclusively because you have the password to the thing that the person needs? Right? Because you can't let everybody into the beer cooler. That's security. Are you helping? You're not. You're in the way. It's okay. You're not a bad person. You were put in the way because security, because operations. We think we can take you out of the way because you're intelligent and expensive people who should be doing things that are enriching your environment operationally. So why not create a little bit more self-service in your environment using all of the existing processes, policies, procedures, and tools that are in your environment, including all the rest of the sponsors here. We're all friends. We're Rundeck. We can help you do that self-service automation. Come talk to us. Come get a cool T-shirt. We're not giving away Adidas. Don't ask. And we're right outside the door. We'd love to have a great conversation with you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So we give sponsors time because without sponsors, we wouldn't be able to pay for everything that's associated with the conference. So thank you very much to all the sponsors. And let me just get Jim's slides up. Perfect. And with that, Jim Shingler from Cardinal Health.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here, honored to be here to speak a little bit about some of the things we got going on at Cardinal Health. That star up there, when in between Dev and Ops, you can ask John about that later. That it was his contribution to my talk yesterday, and this is a simplified version of it. And there's two people. If you could stand up, I'd appreciate it. Laura Weber and Carlo Vedovado. Where are you guys at? Okay, so I hope you guys got your seatbelts on and your helmets. And when we get done, I got 108 slides that we're going to do in 30 minutes. No, I'm joking. But if you want to learn more about it, Carlo and Laura are part of the team that's helping lead all of what we got going on here at Cardinal Health. So just a real quick about me. I'm in the enterprise architecture group and leading up platform architecture and DevOps. I've got a variety of experiences there and some ways to get in contact with me. Basically, we believe that we only achieve value when the products and services we build are running in production. Before that, they actually have a negative value because you spent money building this thing and you're getting no reward for it, okay? There's no return. We believe in fast feedback and flow. Feedback is absolutely critical to everything that we do, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And we believe deployments should be performed without causing chaos and disruptions, right? No service outages, no service impairments, security or compliance failures, anything. Those are some lofty goals, but that's what our goals are. So this is one of my favorite slides, something we've been working on for a while, and is what is Lean Agile and DevOps? And we got concept to value, and that's pretty standard. Cardinal's got quite a history in Lean, especially in the distribution and centers and such. If you ever get a chance to do a Cardinal Health tour in their distribution center, do it. It's intimidating. It's amazing what these guys have done. And these are some of the kind of things you have to do when you're a 1% business like Cardinal. We're a lot like Kroger's and your grocery stores and all the rest of that, very slim margins. So in general, what it gets down to is this is what Agile is for us. This is the beginning of the process and creating of the value. And then DevOps is what we use to deliver value. So a lot of people get into arguments about it's agile, no, it's DevOps, and honestly, that's a worthless argument. Don't get caught up in that. Everything is grounded in lean, okay? It's all about applying some of those lean things that we have learned in our operations over into IT. And that's something for a lot of companies that's relatively new. So why is it so confusing? You know, what we're trying to do is make improvements along every step of the way from the business idea to working code in the customer's hands. Well, the problem is when you start to look at some place like Cardinal, we're a big place, right? And everyone's situation and constraints are just a little different, right? So the first grade version of DevOps, it looks really easy, right? You just got to do this, this, and this, and you're done. But everybody's business situation is a little different. Everybody's processes are a little different. You get people issues and technology issues, and we're going to dig into those just a little bit. So the short version of the story is there is no one universal answer, and it depends on where you're standing, what these things look like, and there is no one size fits all, okay? We have to be craftsmen about what we're doing, okay? We have to understand the ideas and then figure out how can we apply these ideas. So business situations, this is a little bit about Cardinal. A lot of people don't realize how big we are. We're a Fortune 14 company, I checked 2 days ago, okay? And it's $129 billion that was in revenues, that was at the end of the year, okay? And this slide here is publicly available. It's in one of our quarterly reports, so that's where I pulled it out of. If you ever go to the hospital, there's an 85% chance you're going to find our products there. Okay, we deliver almost everywhere. Pharmacies, it's a big thing we do. We just have a lot of things that we're doing, and 50,000 employees worldwide, that's probably wrong by now. If you do some quick searching on the internet, and since 2000, we've acquired 30 companies. Think about that, 30 companies in 18 years. Oh my God, that's a lot. So these are some of the unique challenges when you get into an enterprise with what we're doing. So we start to look at some of the people issues. Conway's Law, we had a great conversation on this last night. Conway's Law impacts how we do things. What's ended up happening is what we've seen is, as near as I can tell, it started happening probably about the mid-90s, okay? We had this over-specialization of skills and labor, okay? That point in time, I worked at Nationwide. You guys have probably never experienced this, but we had our business analysts, and they were in one department, and we had a separate department for systems analysts, and then we had a separate department for dev, and a separate department for QA, right? Can you imagine what our processes looked like? They looked exactly like that, okay? And that's basically what Conway's Law talks about. And the thing that's funny is we really started to see this over-specialization happening in the mid-90s, and then I think it was further irritated by Y2K, where if you could spell SQL or Java, you were billing out at $100 an hour, okay? And so this is what we saw, and so this is what we've been used to for the last 20-some years. And so people think all of this Agile and DevOps stuff, they think this is all brand new, right? Actually, it's not. That's the spoiler alert. What we're actually going back to is the way that we did development before 95, okay? My first job out of school, I was the BA, I was the QA, I was the SA, I was the DBA, I was the programmer. And when it went bump in the middle of the night, guess who got called? Me, right? And that's truly build it, run it, right, that we hear with DevOps. And we're actually starting to revert back to that a little bit is what we're seeing. And so then you got to start to think about how does our organizational structures and the leaders, how do they need to start thinking about some of this, okay? Another important idea around people is project teams versus product teams, okay? We still have what we experience, and we're a large organization. We still have project teams, We favor product teams, but we still have project teams. They're teams that are put together for temporary small efforts, and then they're disbanded at the end of the project, okay? I prefer everybody operate in product teams and have a sustained team because there's so much economics that get into that. There's a lot of waste in project teams, all the storming, forming, and norming at phases. Well, that's why I like sustained teams, because I know how to work. If Laura and I need to do something, I know Laura, we got a relationship. I know how she works. I know what she's thinking of. I know what she's going to ask me, okay? And that's part of the benefits, the economies of product teams. So when we look at processes, I don't care. Substitute your personal SDLC here in whatever you do. They all look some form of this, okay? What we really, really need to look at and think about is automating absolutely stinking everything, okay? This gets into some of the feedback stuff that we need to do, okay? And at the end of the day, I've been doing IT a little longer than I like to admit, but luckily when I was in university, I didn't have to do punch cards. We did electronic cards, okay? And I got real used to that. First job out of school, I worked for NCR. And I considered myself to be a pretty bright individual, and my boss handed me a deck, and he says, hey, there's a punch card machine over there. Go change the following cards. I walked in there and go, crap, I don't even know how to turn this thing on. So I went and got my boss and all the rest of it. But, I mean, it was kind of interesting, because what we saw was if I submitted something in the morning, if I was lucky, by noon I found out it compiled, or not. But my code always compiled. It was everybody else's code we had to worry about. Then I would submit it around lunchtime, and if I was lucky, I got the results of the run by the end of the day, right? So I got one shot on goal in a day, right? So think about how things have changed. We started getting these newfangled things called PCs, and I was able to put compilers directly on the PC. So I took that 4-hour compile cycle down to 15, 20 minutes, right? And it enabled us to get more shots on goal. So this is what we're trying to do with automation as well, right? So I'm guessing if you're here, you've probably done some form of development in your career, right? So when we look at some of this, when I write code today, if you come back to me in 2 months and say, hey, remember that code that you wrote 2 months ago? There's a problem with it. What do you think the odds are that I have any idea what you're talking about? Near zero, okay? I've got no freaking idea, okay? That's because your feedback loops are too long, right? I gotta go look at this code. There's been code, it's kind of funny, as a developer, you gotta admit this now, come on, because I know you're gonna be liars if you don't admit it. You've gone back and looked at code and go, who's the idiot that wrote this code? Crap, it was me. Right? So that's some of the stuff when feedback loops are really important, and why we want to automate absolutely everything. I'm telling you that really, honestly, most development people have ADD. If you say you don't, you're a liar, okay? Because what ends up happening is we've got so much going on in our lives that if it takes any longer than a couple of minutes for me to get feedback, somebody's interrupted me, or my mind went somewhere else to some other problem I had to solve, okay? And so that's why automating everything is absolutely important. That's one of the things I can't stress enough. So one of the other things we got to look at is we're a large organization. We do an awful lot of outsourcing, and we got some good partners that we work with. But we got to start to think about some of these things. How much am I willing to invest in my partners and helping them figure out, I want you to do things certain ways, right? There was one initiative, I won't tell which one it was, I'll protect the guilty, where we were dealing with an offshore partner, and we're talking about the new processes that we're doing and all the rest of that, and I start talking to them about how the developers need to test their work. And they said, yeah, we don't do that. We've got another team that does that. And I said, no, aren't you cute? You do now. So part of what we have to start looking at and thinking about is, how does what we're doing with DevOps and Lean and Agile, how does it need to affect the way we write our master agreements with our partners? How does this affect how we write our statements of work? And so that we're clear to them that these are what our expectations are if you're working with us, okay? How does it affect that we write all of our contracts? So As you can imagine, we're a large company, and I said we've grown a lot through acquisition, okay? This is us. It's kind of funny, if you've ever seen that museum, all these people running, all these animals running around at night, that's kind of what we've got going on. We've got, this is just a sampling. This isn't even everything, right? I mean, but it gives you an idea. We're working with everything from large-scale packages like SAP, Salesforce, and Manhattan, custom code. I mean, we've literally got some of everything. And so when you do this, and you're thinking about DevOps, okay, I'm guessing some of you have probably done modern web applications. Can I take the way I did my DevOps for my modern web applications and go to run over to SAP and say, hey, I've got your answer, do it just like this? You think it's gonna work? Guarantee it won't. There are unique constraints in every single one of these things. And that's part of what we have to take a look at and be careful about. So it requires us, part of the things that we're starting to do is work more with Salesforce and SAP and all the rest of that to see how can I get them to make changes to help us enable DevOps, okay? And it's a journey, right? There is no one way of doing this stuff. And the thing we want to do is constantly make improvements on where we're going and what we do. So some possible answers, okay? Barriers, it's not really technology. Technology is actually not our biggest barrier. We got plenty of technology. We've never had as much technology as we've got today. The real thing, and drawing back to the previous talk, is really about organizational change management and getting people to work differently. So pay a lot of attention to what Tiffany said a few minutes ago. That's really our real issues. And helping the organization understand the principles and giving them as much flexibility as possible and allowing them to take ownership of their plans, right? This is all about you build it, you run it, okay? So the way we try to do some of this is through intents, okay? EIT, that's enterprise IT. Okay, that's part of what we're part of. So we got enterprise IT, we have concepts to physical. So really, in our case, what we're trying to do is move to 90% cloud, okay? That's our stated goals. We want to kill our data centers, okay? But we've got all this technology, all these processes, so what do? So our real big thing is we're looking at the conceptual models and helping people understand the concepts and the intents. Now, what we are doing is we're focusing heavily on the cloud, going across to all of our different initiatives that we got going on and saying, okay, I figured out this path, okay, so I figured out DevOps really well for a modern Java web app. How can I take what I learned there and start applying it to a .NET-based web app? How can I take those learnings and start applying them to the work that I'm doing with Python and big data, okay? And you start figuring out how can I leverage the learnings. And with each one of them, it might look a little different, but the key is to focus back on the intents. One of our best shops, any of you guys ever program on AS400, RPG3? Yeah. One of our best shops is an AS400 shop, right? Because they took the intents and they said, I'm not going to make excuses that I'm on an AS400 RPG3. I can't do this stuff, right? They took the intents and said, what can I do to move in that direction? And that's a huge win, right? They had to develop some compensating processes and all, but they've actually done a great job. I hold them up all the time as a huge win across the organization. So part of what we do then also, and Carla's been doing an awful lot of work in this area, is here's a conceptual model that we've built out for people and helping them understand. And so actually that shouldn't look all that unfamiliar to people, because that's, if you're doing any type of development, that's actually the kind of stuff you've got going on today, right? And a lot of people, they're like, Jim, that's great, that's not any big deal. Actually, it is a big deal, to be honest with you, because you wouldn't believe, how many people don't even know their flows and how they get from one end to the other. Laura, in a conversation just this week, she drew out this kind of a flow for what an area was doing. And she'd done a lot of interviewing of people, and they had people in there arguing with whether or not that's what they actually do, right? They didn't even know what they do. So getting these things down to understandable flows is the big thing. The one big thing that there's a couple things that I'm like really hypersensitive about. Everything starts with source control, absolutely stinking everything, okay? Even your DDL for your database has to be in source control, okay? Everything starts there. And we could talk, basically what we do is we have a Confluence site up there that talks about each one of those numbers and what's going on. But the big thing is we're trying to push things as much as possible to the left. Your unit testing, your integration testing, your security testing, because once again, it's all about that feedback loop. If it takes me 2.5 months to find out I got a security problem, that's a lose, right? I want to find out about it today. I want to know now. So the big things for us is that we're really focused on quality and velocity of our feedback, okay? We need that loop to be as tight as possible, right? Automate everything. One of the things that on the Conway's Law that we talked about a few minutes ago, right? We're a lot like a lot of big companies, and we've had these separate organizations that did testing. Testing is the developer's problem. Testing is not a separate activity, right? I do unit testing to overcome my inadequacies as a human being, right? Any of you guys run WebSphere, right? Okay, so I make a 6-line code change to a Java module. I compile it, I package it, I fire up WebSphere, I put the package out there, I run through 5 or 6 different pages entering exactly the right information to get down to that 5 or 6 lines of code I wrote. That's 15 minutes, best case. Okay? Instead of having a stupid, simple test, right? It's about me. Testing is for me. Acceptance testing is for proving to the product owner that what he asked me to do, I got done. But unit testing is for me. It helps overcome my inadequacies. So another big one is security, right? Once again, this is relatively new. Most devs do not think about security, okay? You could get away with that in times past. You can no longer get away with that, right? John's going to have some more on this later that I think is brilliant, some of the work that he's done and where he's going. But the message I want you to understand is security is also the development team's responsibility. They need to be doing this, okay? If you're doing any type of modern development with microservices or mini services, or maybe you call them domain services, you better be paying attention to OAuth 2 and OIDC. Most developers have never heard of that, okay? But this is how you secure your applications. Start looking at your Swagger documents. There's a section in there called security that nobody ever fills out that tells and explains what kind of security things you have to have in place in order to be able to use this service. So one of the things I really like, how many of you read the Phoenix Project before, right? DevOps, I hope everybody hand should be up. The predecessor to the Phoenix Project is actually The Goal, okay? It was written back in the late 90s. This book changed my life. I have read it no less than 7 times, cover to cover. Okay, it's freaking brilliant. He teaches you a god-awful topic called the theory of constraints in the form of a business novel, okay? And I actually found myself continuing to read even when I was tired because I wanted to know what happened next in this business novel. So it's brilliant. And if you look him up, Eli Goldratt, he's got several books that are just awesome books that are really good. And part of what it gets down to is the theory of constraints. If I've got a process, let's see, get this right from your side, right, that runs this way, and I got, maybe 5 boxes across here. And box 3 is a bottleneck. Fixing anything over on this side is a waste of time because all I'm doing is putting more pressure on my bottleneck. Fixing anything over here, that's okay because once I get through the bottleneck, I'll get to production faster. But I've got to focus on 3 because that's where my bottleneck is. Karen Martin is the latest thinker in a process called value stream mapping, okay? She's got a lot of really good work on there and helping you understand where your problems are. And highly recommend you read her work on how to do that. So here is an example of some of the value stream mapping. So value stream mapping is a compass. It is not a GPS, okay? So here's an example of some stuff that I put together in a value stream map. Pretty generalized value stream map put together. But the thing that is interesting is to look at over here. Oh, you can't quite see it. It fell off. Okay, so you see over here where you see releasing, you see that CNA number there? Watch how that CNA number changes along here. That's called complete inaccurate. That's an indication of rework, okay? So over here, you see that in planning, that 8% of the time what they do is good. They have a 20% rework rate on the information that is coming out of planning, okay? So as we take a look at all these going across, when you get over here to the total, you can't see it on the slide here, but that says 2%. What that means is there is a 2% chance of something going in the front got through the other side without rework, okay? And we start to look at where things start to break down, and that helps me to know where to focus any improvement efforts that I'm working on, okay? So it's a guide, it's to help you. Now, the good news is on some of this stuff that once you fix it, it's not done. Look at step 5, okay? This is the 5 steps that you find out of the goal, okay? Because once you solve a bottleneck, guess what? It's like whack-a-mole. There's a new bottleneck, right? And this gets down to people think that, I want you people to understand is that it's not an event. This is the journey, right, that we got to keep going through, right? And so, okay, look, there's a problem. I'll fix that, okay? Now, where is my bottleneck? And it's about constantly looking for that bottleneck and continuous improvement stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of our leadership, this is part of what we've got to help them understand, that this is a journey, this is a way of thinking, this is a way of being, okay? Let's zoom back through these. So one of the things that we're instituting now within the organization, remember I talked about project teams versus product teams? One of the things that we're starting to do is we have a continuum that we work on. On the far right-hand side is project teams, and they get what we call white glove, okay? That is because they're going away, do you think I'm gonna let them do whatever they want? No. They have to do it the shared services way, okay? We have a shared services organization that Laura runs, that this is what they have to do. We've got a prescribed way that things have to be done. They don't get to do whatever they want. Now, if I have a standing team that I know is going to be running for a while and doing their own thing and they're committed to it and their leadership is engaged, is we allow them to do what's called DIY over here on the far right to you guys. And this is where the development team is fully responsible for their continuous integration and continuous delivery. And they operate within guardrails, but they are fully accountable to it. Whereas on the project team side, we're more involved in helping them build things out. But we're trying to create the capabilities for them to be able to do what they need to be able to do to move fast. So some of the reference material, I zoomed through some of this. There's some, if you go out to that link there, that's my personal GitHub repository link. Because I have ADD, I forget about things, so I put it out on GitHub, right? I'm frequently asked for some resources on, where are you getting this thinking and this ideas? So there's a lot of good books out there. You'll find John Willis's book out there. It's a brilliant book. He calls it the DevOps Handbook. I call it the DevOps Bible. We quote it chapter and verse because it's a great book. It's one of the really good books out there. The goal is out there. The goal, if you guys are interested in the goal, my one recommendation is don't buy the book. Listen to it on Audible. It's phenomenal. It's the highest quality audiobook I've ever heard, okay? They have voice actors reading the different parts, okay? When you're in a scene, you hear all of the background sounds appropriate for that scene. And whatever you do, do not listen to this on your drive to work. You'll find yourself getting caught up in the book, and then you'll miss your exit. So, once again, Laura and Carlo, find me. Any thoughts, ideas, questions, things that I didn't cover that I can share with y'all? Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. We'll be around.
Thank you, Jim. So we're going to do a break right now. We have a break until 10:40. Big thank you to our speakers for getting us back on time. It's much appreciated. And so be back in here at 10:40 sharp, and we'll have our third speaker of the morning. Thank you.